Welcome back to Southern Extreme TV. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the functionality and the usability of the Athlon Cronus ATS Pro 640 with a rangefinder thermal scope. So to start off with, if you have not watched the initial review and unboxing video of this optic, and you're in the market, you're trying to learn about this scope, I would suggest you go and you start with that video to begin with. If you've already watched that video, or maybe you've already made a purchase of a Athlon optic thermal scope, then this video is for you. We're going to do a somewhat deep dive into the functionality, the button layout, how to get to the different menu options, and then just briefly talk about it. So it's not going to be as in-depth of a review type video, but mainly just trying my best to show you guys how to work this optic to the best of my ability. So just to start with, obviously getting the optic out of the box, this is it. It will come with two proprietary external removable batteries that you can install. They are installed via this side compartment here. So if you unscrew where typically your windage turret would be at, if you unscrew it, you will have a battery compartment there. It does come with two, so you can keep those fully charged, and you've got a replacement in case one goes dead out in the field. Now you do have an internal battery as well. So basically once this removable battery is installed into this Athlon, you essentially are running off of two different battery power banks. You have one battery that is built in internally to the scope. That scope and that battery is charged via the USB-C port, which is located on the left-hand side of this optic underneath this flap. So if you undo this cap, you will see a female end for a USB-C. If you plug that USB-C cable into this scope and then plug it into a wall outlet, that is how you would charge the internal battery of this scope. So to start off with, that's going to be kind of your first steps, is obviously charging the scope or charging one of the external batteries itself. Now that we've got both of those installed, it is time for us to turn the optic on. Now, the great thing about the Athlon thermal lineup is the button layout up top is one of the most simplistic, if not the most simplistic button layout and menu options that I've worked with of all the thermal optics that I've reviewed. You've got very simple two buttons right here on the bottom side. You've got a power button, and then you have a camera icon. The camera icon is obviously used for taking photos and starting and stopping videos, even though this optic does have a feature where it is an automatic shot recall activated video. So as soon as you shoot, you can set this scope to where it will automatically start recording, and it would have backlogged some of the features or some of the viewing screens before the shot was taking place. So that's what that button's for. But let's turn this thing on. And to turn it on, you're going to mash the power button, and you're just going to hold it down for a couple of moments. And if you look inside, you should see the Athlon thermal logo come up. And this is where it's going to get a little tricky for me on trying to engage with you guys on these two big cameras, while also trying to walk you guys through the internals of this scope as well. So just bear with me, because some of the footage is probably going to be mainly internal of this scope. But again, the button layout up top is very, very simplistic and very easy to work through, so it'll be easy for you guys to follow along with me. So now that the scope is turned on, you're going to want to do a multitude of things, two things really, to make this thing set up specifically for your eyes and your vision. First of which is going to be to adjust the eyepiece that is closest to your eye. Obviously, you're going to adjust it left or adjust it right. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring the actual screen itself into focus with your type of vision. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and make this adjustment, and this is basically just bringing it in for you in the way that you can see. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to adjust this focus ring out here on the end. Now the focus ring out here on the end, this is going to be something that you're going to be playing with in a lot of different situations, whether you're shooting or whether you're hunting, because if you're hunting in an area where maybe you're only shooting 100 yards, then you want to focus this in for that type of range. If you're hunting in a situation where you could be hunting 200, 300, 400 yards out, then obviously you want to make that adjustment on this focus dial also. So just for the sake of the video, we're going to start recording. As I mentioned earlier, there are two buttons, the power button and the camera button. By very simple, gotta watch out because there's a bee getting ready to land on me. Apologize for that, guys. We were getting attacked by a wasp. But like I mentioned earlier, we're going to start recording onto this. And as I mentioned, there are two buttons, the power button and the camera button. If you do a single press of the camera button, it will take a snapshot or a picture. If you mash and hold down, then it will actually start recording. And we're going to do that now. So this is where I need you guys to bear with me a little bit on the main screen, because we're probably going to be switching a good part of this video over to the actual thermal itself. So as you can tell here, the image is really not that clear. It's not that crisp and clean looking. So I'm going to adjust this focus ring out on the end of this scope so that we bring this image into picture. Now, obviously this scope is not mounted onto a rifle, so the stability is going to be a little shaky, so just bear with me. I'll try my best to hold it as steady as possible. So right there you can tell that that image is extremely clear and extremely crisp for what it is. So really excited that, you know, just making those two micro adjustments with the focus dials are able to bring that into picture and make everything look really, really clear, which that's the positive thing behind using a 640 resolution optic in lieu of a 384 or lesser optic. Now, one thing I want to note is going to be the zoom ability. So we've kind of went over a good bit for the most part of the external buttons and stuff. We'll dive into that in a little more detail, but one main thing that you're going to want to know, especially when you're shooting or you're hunting, is how to zoom this optic. On the left-hand side of this scope, which is where if your typical day scope has an illuminated reticle setting or a parallax adjustment, that's where this knob is going to be located. And all it is very simple. If you want to zoom the image in to the target, you're going to take that dial and you're going to zoom it in. You're going to spin it towards your target. And as you spin it, that image is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're going to keep zooming, and you're going to keep on zooming all the way until you get, for this optic, to the max zoomable rating of 23x. And then the same thing for if you want to zoom out on this, you spin that same knob back towards you, which is spinning away from the animal or away from the target. And you keep spinning and it will go all the way back to the base magnification of 2.95. So very, very simple for somebody who does not want to have to reach up and click a bunch of buttons or learn where a bunch of buttons are at for zooming in and out. All it is you've got a knob, and you just need to know that if you want to zoom in, you're going to spin the dial towards the target. And if you want to zoom out, you're going to spin the dial away from the target. So very, very simplistic there. Now, let's dive into the actual functionality of the scope and into the different settings. So up top, where your normal windage elevation turret would be at, you have a knob that will spin left or right. And what that will do is that will actually cycle through the different color palettes that this scope offers. And I believe that this is going to offer, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different color palettes, 7 different color palettes, 7 or 8. And this is for those of you that maybe like to run white hot, maybe you like to run black hot, maybe you like the green color, or maybe you like the tracking red. This is where you can make those very simple adjustments on this scope, and you don't have to go into a menu setting to do that. All it is adjusting that elevation knob left or right. That's going to cycle you through your different color palettes. So to get into your menu settings, you're going to do one of two things. On top of your elevation turret, where you would typically adjust your red hot, white hot, whatever the color palette is, there's going to be a button, and it's going to have the letter M on it. You're either going to mash and hold that button, or you're going to do a single click. Now, the single click is going to take you to a very, very simplistic menu that will give you the option to select, again, your different color palettes,
SEPA, green hot, blue hot, iron red, red hot, black hot, and white hot. We're going to leave it on white hot for now because I think that's showing up pretty good for this this video. The next thing is you're going to go to, if you, again, just this left or right, that's how you get to your different selections. And this right here is going to be your picture-in-picture selection. So if I mash the button on top again to select, it will give me the ability to change this picture-in-picture feature and where it's located. So I can either have it located in the upper middle, the upper left, I can have it completely off, or I can have it in the upper right. For me, the upper middle is the most comfortable place for that to be because it's very easy for my eyes to track and to follow. So we're going to leave it there. Then moving on through, you can go into a multitude of other selections such as screen brightness. You can also turn on your scope's Wi-Fi. So for those of you that have the mobile app from Athlon, this is where you would access your photos as well as your videos, or to actually view the screen as well for what is being viewed through the scope. This will give you the actual Wi-Fi name, and it'll also give you the password. But for simplicity reasons, the password is just 12345678. The next tab, this is your hot track. So if you are somebody who wants to have a little icon tracking a heat signature while you're looking through the scope, you can turn that feature on and off there. And then you also have an eco mode. So the eco mode will allow the optic to go into basically battery saving mode and be very conscious about how much energy it's burning. Maybe if you're on the tail end of a hunt, or maybe you forgot to charge your batteries like Guffey sometimes does, that's a very cool thing to be able to turn on. The last option is going to be your yardage. So this is your A platform for 50 to 100 to 200, 300, all the way out to 500. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave that selected on the 100 yard mark. And the reason for that is you can set up different zeros for this optic at different yardages. So if you're going out target practicing, or if you're going out shooting in different situations, then you can choose to set this scope at a different zero depending on the yardage you want it to be at. So to get away from this very simplistic screen, we're going to mash this exact same button, but we're going to mash it and we're going to hold it down for a couple moments. And there you see it goes away. Now to get into the more advanced settings of this optic, you're going to mash the exact same button, but instead of doing a very short, simple click, you're going to click and you're going to hold. And you will see that once you click and hold, this actually brings up a relatively large section of different menus. This is where you have selections to determine the way that your rangefinder works. You can change the different color reticles for where the LRF is actually at on your screen. So that's really neat with this optic. You've got the ballistic calculator, which is a really cool feature with this scope. You can put in your bullet information, your speed information, and whenever you range a target, depending on what your zero is set at, it will actually give you your holdover for those different distances. And then you're also able to go in and adjust the actual holdover reticle for whether you wanted a specific color or a specific type. All that can be accessed in this setting here. This mode here is going to be your image quality adjustment. Basically, this is where you can go to your different settings and dial in exactly what is going to look best for your situation. For somebody who's hunting out in really wide open areas, your settings in this tab are going to be completely different than what my settings are going to be here where we're hunting really small fields in western North Carolina. You have contrast, image enhancement, compensation mode, brightness, and then the scene mode. All of those play a factor into the actual image quality that you're going to be getting back through this optic. The next is going to be your profile configuration. So this is where you have the ability to select different reticles, and you can set up different reticles to appear different ways. So for this one, the profile configuration for A is going to be set up in Mil 3. That is my reticle type. I'll give you guys a short rundown of what this looks like. So if I wanted to change the reticle, then I would make that selection, and then I can scroll through the different options that this optic offers. And that one right there is my favorite. And then if you're somebody who does not like red, you can change this all the way through a bunch of different color palettes, but I found red showed up probably the best. And then you have the ability to adjust the reticle brightness. So if you're hunting in really dark a really dark night. Maybe you don't want that reticle to be so bright that you're washing out what target it is that you're aiming at. And to get out of this screen here, you're going to do a mash and hold, and then you will see that that selection up at the top unhighlights, and you can go over to the different zero options, or the different menu options. Here is where the zeroing option that I mentioned earlier, this is why we wanted to leave it set on 100, because you can see that as we're going into the zeroing profile, we know we have the 100 yard mark selected. If that's the yardage that I want this scope or gun to be zeroed at, just select what yardage it is that you're going to zero. Once I select the 100, you'll see this smaller window come up, and it will allow me to then go to my X and Y axis, and I can actually move that reticle in a certain direction, whether it be left or right, or whether it be up or down. And then once I get it moved to the exact location of my point of impact after my first shot, I can click confirm, hold it down, and now my new zero has been saved on this reticle. We're going to hold down, go back to the main menu. Here you've got audio input, so you have the ability to turn the audio off on this scope if the audio is not something that you want. You also have the auto shot record, which I have turned on here because this is probably going to be a buddy optic, and I don't want them to have to worry about trying to hit the record button. I want them to be focused on trying to shoot the coyote that we got coming in. The scope will do the recording on its own. This is the battery save mode. So again, this is a little more detailed for the eco mode. It gives you the ability to do the auto sleep, auto power off, a timed menu off, charging indication, black screen indication as well. All these are just different settings. That's personal preference. And then this is where you get into the actual specifics of the actual scope. So if you don't speak English, this is where you change the language. This is where you set your date and time. This is where you can also see how much internal memory you have left. And this is also, for those of you guys that record a lot, this is also where you go into the memory formatting. And I'm not going to cancel this because obviously I'm still recording for you guys on this video, but that's where I could go in, do the memory format, and it would completely delete all of the media that's internally stored onto this optic. Typically I do that before all of our hunts, just so that way it's easier for me to sort through the pictures and the videos when it's time for me to do the final editing. And then obviously once you're done with that, you mash and hold the top of the turret again, and it will take you all the way back out to the main screen where you can go back and start hunting and shooting. The one thing that I did not go over is going to be how to operate the laser rangefinder. And to do the laser rangefinder, it is going to be over here on the left hand side where a typical parallax adjustment is, right up against your zoom knob. So instead of zooming in or zooming out, if you go to the outside edge, you've got A for the Athlon logo. If you simply click that button, you will see that I've now got a separate green reticle that is showcasing. And if I click that button again, it will range me at 67 yards. Now, once you go in and you set up your ballistic profile and you have your ballistic calculator turned on, when you make this final range, it will give you a holdover that will appear on your reticle screen to show you exactly how high you need to aim on your animal depending on the yardage. So very, very simplistic, very easy to use, and really well thought out in my opinion. That right there, guys, is going to be a very easy, quick, hopefully brief rundown of how to get into the main menu settings, how to make some adjustments, and overall how to access and use this thermal scope. So far I've been really pleased with this 640 resolution Athlon scope. It's a very budget friendly optic for what you get with this scope in comparison to a lot of the other scopes on the market that have the exact same features. If there's any questions that I did not cover in today's video, or maybe I didn't do as good of a job covering, drop a comment down below. I will try my best to answer the question for you, or I'll try to find somebody who knows the answer if I don't.
So really appreciate y'all hanging out with me. If you are new to Southern Extreme TV, please hit that subscribe button, as we are trying to grow this channel to 100,000 subscribers, and every click does get me one step closer. If you're looking for this scope or thermal scopes very similar to this, head on over to Southern Precision Outdoors. There should be a link at the bottom of this video that will take you straight to their website where you can purchase this scope or ones very similar to it. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys on the next episode.